Well, we finished Geek'd Con.
We did.
We survived.
We survived.
And then we were exhausted.
Yes.
Hence the reason that this is not coming out immediately following Geek Con.
But
here we are.
Let's talk about Geek Con.
Glix, what is going on?
We are receiving a signal from a new area on the planet Geekery.
All right, let's see what the planet has for us today.
Opening comms in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, devoted geeks, and welcome to episode 142 of Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions, a show for devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved. I'm Dallas. I'm so glad you've hit the play button today. Whether you're joining us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you're finding this podcast, hey, thank you for being part of our community. This is a special episode of Comm Talk, mostly because it's late, and also because this is our Geek Con review.
You know, I feel like we've been doing a lot better with Comm Talk. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this is only a few weeks late and we've had content in between means that we're just still doing better.
We are doing better. Hey, if you're new here, I'm Dallas, and with me here is my beautiful bride, Celeste, co-host, co-founder of Geek Devotions, and this is our post-con debriefing, and originally this was going to be like a mega podcast where we were going to have interviews with our team all within this. However, the conversations we had with some of our team members were really long, and we realized that they needed to be their own podcast.
Yes.
So this is just going to be Celeste and I, and over the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear a couple more conversations between us and our team talking about Geek Con, debriefing, and talking about some of the great things and the low things and everything in between. So that being said, let's get into today's conversation. Celeste Mora.
Yeah.
Tell me a highlight of Geek Con.
Highlight of Geek'd Con. The one panel I went to.
The one panel?
I went to one panel. It's a highlight. And it was John Kassir. He voices the Crypt Keeper, but he legitimately is an interesting person. He has been in the business for a long time.
Yeah. And
just hearing him talk, because for those of you who don't know, I do some voice work. I don't do a lot. Don't get paid. But I do, I what I call piddle with it. I play with it a little bit.
Right. But if you would like to pay her,
that can be arranged. But yeah, he had a lot of interesting insight into voice acting and what it was and what it is now. And it's just, it definitely was interesting. I always love the voice actors that come though, that especially when they do a panel.
Yeah.
I did not get a chance to meet the lady who voiced Rogue. I really wanted to.
Yeah.
She was gone before I had a chance.
No, for reals?
Well, because Saturday I had a headache.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'd gotten dehydrated. I hadn't taken care of myself Friday. Ended up dealing with some health issues, and I'm pretty sure I was dehydrated still left over from the issues. And so all day Saturday I had the most blazing headache and couldn't think, couldn't function, was barely because nobody remembered to bring ibuprofen or any form of pain medication there. There was no way to go get any. So it was okay, well, I'm just going to have to tough this out. So a lot of things on Saturday would have been better had I not been dying.
Yeah. And it was a long day. For those of you who didn't know, we had a booth this past year at Geek Con.
We did.
And it was cool because we had our team in town with us. And they helped to relieve us some. So you had an opportunity to walk away and relax a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But for the most part, you and I were the primary people at the booth while our team walked the floor and geeked out and loved on folks and did some stuff.
It was a great and I guess this is a second highlight for me, but it was a great opportunity for them because our team is all not here.
Right.
They're all over the place. We have people who help us. They write, they podcast, they do music reviews, they do movie reviews. We have a group of people who care about what we do. And this was the first time that any of them had gotten a chance through Geek Devotions to go, hey, I'm the face of something.
Right.
And get to talk to people. And then to see this little crazy little YouTube show we decided we were going to start 6 years ago and see people taking that mission and going, you started this, but we're going to keep going with it.
Yeah.
Like that was definitely a highlight for me, is getting to watch them work and like, especially Kevin.
Yeah.
Because Kevin is great about networking.
Oh my goodness. He's a rock star.
I don't understand how he does this.
He's got like no fear. He just is like, hello, I'm Kevin. I think he uses the accent as the icebreaker and just walks into it.
And people are just so fascinated by his voice. Because legitimately, like, I developed a relationship with the Bossier Library.
Yep.
It's building from on previous years. One of them is a friend of ours, and so we kind of had a starting thing. But I legitimately, by the end of the con, they were like, hey, somebody gave us pizza. Do you want a piece? And I was like, yes. And so
heck yeah.
like end of Saturday, I'm over there munching on pizza, and they're like packing up, and we're talking about all the crazy people. And during that time, one of them goes, hey, is Kevin part of your team? And I go, yeah, he is. And they're like, is he Irish? Because apparently in his talking with them, because sometimes Kevin slips into where it doesn't quite sound as Irish.
Right.
And that's the Floridian in him. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, yeah, he's Irish. But it was just good because it wasn't that they weren't talking bad about him, but he legitimately had come over, let them know they were loved, had conversation with them, and then I got to see some of the fruit of that.
Yeah. That's one of the things. And I say this in a later interview with our guys. There was a highlight for me was seeing them do amazing things, be absolutely fantastic on the con floor.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing the fruit of that, encouraging people, loving on people. Branson going out of his way to help find prayer for a lady.
Yeah.
Who was struggling with some stuff, and the team encouraging people, loving on people through various ways. John was on the con floor, and he was interviewing people, asking them what their favorite terrible movie was.
That is an episode of The Bottom Shelf that is out on the podcast feeds, and I loved hearing that episode because, again, it is John. Now, if you know John on a personal level, you know that he is not a super people person.
Yeah.
He and I are very similar in we like people. We have a certain amount of energy we can devote to people, but the con was stretching us both with there's so many people around.
Stranger danger.
Yeah, exactly. So just listening to him talk to different people was great because like I'm going, that's growth for him. That's stretching him. That's God moving through him. Because if it was up to John, he would have talked to no one. But but because of John's love of people, his love of God, and his dedication to our mission here, he stretched himself, and it was fantastic to listen to.
Absolutely. It was so good. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where my highlight is. And again, I said this in another podcast we have later down here coming out in a couple weeks, is just seeing the guys do amazing and loving on folks, encouraging people. And there were so many doors that were opened, not just because we were there, but we as a team corporately were there, encouraging people, loving on people. And we were able to see some really cool things take place. Yeah. We had a young lady come to our booth that was dealing with some anxiety, and we got to encourage them and kind of help them calm down a little bit and find some bounds and find some peace. We were able to answer a lot of questions for people who were just really struggling with, like, how do you guys do this? Yeah. And, you know,
I feel like that's the most common question we get. How do you do this?
Yeah.
We're like, we don't know. We just do it.
So... But that was definitely just a highlight for me.
Yeah.
It's because one of the cards on the table when we were structuring this podcast, my thought process is, what was the highlight of the con? Thinking something normal, something like, oh, seeing this person or this thing. and then talk about something spiritual we got out of it. But that was kind of my highlight, was that spiritual aspect of it, was seeing our team grow and seeing people genuinely encouraged, despite other things that are taking place in people's lives.
Yeah. So there was definitely, like, some of the highlight was getting to meet the team in person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I freaking love Squid.
Yeah. She is so awesome.
She is so fun. And, like, you know how you have friends online and you're like, are they going to be the same in real life?
Yeah.
Or is that just a persona? And she is the same.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like you weren't here when she and Danny got here, which Danny is awesome too.
Oh, I love Danny.
But I don't have as good of a close of a relationship with Danny. But she got here and we're getting them in the house, and she was laughing because she was like, there's no back door. And I was like, you're in the garage, keep coming. And so she walks in, she sets her stuff down, she goes, and then she looks at me and she gives me a big ol' hug. And I was like, okay, we're doing this. And then I was like, you know what? We've been friends for like 2 years now, so that's normal.
Yeah.
To hug. And I was like, I have my friend in real life, and she's really my friend. She's not just tolerating me online.
That's funny. Well, speaking of friends, I had a highlight of the con for me that was personal. It was outside of what we were doing at the con. Mm-hmm. Was I had my childhood best friend in town.
Yeah.
John Frudiger. He flew down.
Which got a little confusing.
On a whim. Like literally, he and I are talking about the con. And he's been connecting with us. He's been in our stream several times. He's been a supporter of ours in various ways over the years. And he's like, I'm coming down. And having him here.
Yeah.
And reconnecting with him. Now, he looks completely different than last time I saw him.
He is a big old boy.
So, context, I have not seen John since the summer of 2003. That's the last time I saw John.
He's a big old boy. His beard did not reach the top of Kate's head. Like, we were standing for the picture, and I'm like, his beard's not even touching her.
Right.
And he is right behind her.
Oh, yeah. But be able to connect with him and chat with him and as Francisco puts it, in the meat space.
Oh, I hate that phrase.
But to do life with him and to talk and encourage, even though during the con we weren't able to hang out that much, the time we got to was great. And the fact that, like, he was there for the con, but he was there to encourage us also. And it was encouraging to have him there. And the fact that he, he wasn't like, I'm here to support you. And like, he wasn't like, out passing flyers or anything like that, but he was there.
Yeah.
He was present with us. And I think that's a lot of things. That really summarizes what we do at Geek Con, is just being present. I don't think people recognize you being present as a form of support that people, they don't appreciate sometimes.
Yeah.
Just being present.
It's one of those things. And I talked about this in the bathroom while I was putting on that blue makeup after fighting with those stupid contacts. But there was a lady there, and she and I were talking as I'm doing the makeup and I'm putting on the blue stuff. She goes, it looks great. My daughter's does this. I don't completely understand it, which we hear a lot from parents.
Yeah.
I don't completely understand it. And she goes, but I mean, I've done this, I've done that. I've like, we're just chatting. And I go, well, kudos for you for trying. Like, it doesn't matter if you completely understand it. It doesn't matter if you completely agree with it, but you're there. Yeah. Your love for your child or for your friend or your fellow man or whoever that's causing you to be present, even if you disagree with what they're doing, can be important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
not disagree, but not understanding what's happening in the fullness.
Like, I love my mother dearly, but she doesn't understand a lot of the geeky stuff. She's not the geeky one. She is my Grey's Anatomy cooking show friend. That's what we talk about.
Sure. When
we talk about stuff outside of normal life. My dad is my geeky friend, but she understands that I like Wonder Woman. She doesn't understand why I like Wonder Woman, but she knows I like Wonder Woman. And so I get Wonder Woman stuff from her.
Yeah.
That's her being present.
Exactly. And I think that's something, if you guys can be encouraged, is look for opportunities to be present with people, even if you don't fully understand it. Just being there for people, encouraging them in some fashion. Again, we're not talking about like if it's something that you just fundamentally disagree with. That's a whole other conversation.
That's different.
But if it's something that you don't understand, but you want to be there for them, one of the hardest things I did in ministry was several years ago. We had a student who was in a terrible car accident, and over the course of the night, passed away.
Yeah.
And myself and our staff member were there with the family all night long.
Yeah.
Until like, I think I didn't get home until like 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, because I had to leave early because I had to work.
Mm-hmm. But my fellow staff member and I, we weren't necessarily doing anything. We weren't saying anything. There's nothing you can say in the situation.
Yeah.
But we were present, and just being present in the moment, being a light for people, it changes things. It encourages them. There becomes an anchor for people, just for a moment. And I think that's one of the most powerful things we can do is just be present with people when they're going through whatever, whether they're celebrating or grieving. Being present with people, and you being someone who points people back to Christ regardless.
Yeah.
They go, that person was there for me.
Yeah.
They were there celebrating with her this. They were there with me growing. I was agreeing with this. And then it opens doors.
It does. We were talking about at church Wednesday, evangelism. And they were talking about the whole, what is evangelism? Not what's an evangelist, but what is evangelism? And so they're talking about how it kind of looks different. Sometimes you're just planting seeds, and sometimes you're the person who's bringing things home. But those anchor points, those being there with people, they're seeds.
Right.
They're seeds that are being deeply rooted. When you're there with somebody who's celebrating, they remember that.
Right.
They remember if you were there on the best day of their life. They also remember if you were there on the worst day of their life.
It's true.
But they remember you were there.
Yeah.
And as long as you are living in a way that points people back to Jesus naturally, then they're also going to remember that Jesus was there.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean you're there to yell at them or you're not necessarily preaching the gospel by laying down Romans Road and yelling at them to tell them that they're going to hell. One of our staff pastors, the Lord's been dealing with him lately, and the Lord's been dealing with him saying that people just need to know that they're loved and that they're cared for. That's one of the biggest hindrances for people right now that we see.
Yeah,
is they don't think God loves them, that God cares about them, and being present is a form of showing them that God genuinely loves and cares for them, because he is there. Yes, God is omnipresent. He's always there. Right. Holy Spirit is present at all times. But we are present as ambassadors of God.
Yeah.
And that changes things for people's lives.
It does. I mean, just think about it as something a day that was terrible for you. Not necessarily what you were talking about earlier, but just another day that was terrible. God had people in the room and was speaking to them and moving through them. And that is our goal when we go to cons. We just want to be there.
Exactly.
If God opens the opportunity, like he did with the lady who needed prayer, had an answer to prayer that day, like within hours, she had the answer to prayer.
Right.
She went from going, I don't know what's going to happen, to going, oh my God, after they prayed, something moved.
Right.
Now, that's not on us.
Right.
We were just obedient.
Exactly.
But we were there, so God used us.
Exactly. So good. Oh man, this is the reason why we've chopped up this podcast, because the conversation with the entirety of the team, it evolved like this. what you guys are going to hear for the next couple of weeks is going to start off you will hear my voice. I'm trying to get this thing going because I don't want it to be necessarily a lengthy conversation because in my mind, the original structure was going to be, much shorter. But when you have people who are passionate about the Lord and we begin to talk about what the Lord has done, it comes out.
Yeah.
And this con was important to us.
It is every year.
I really believe it was a shifting in Geek Devotions as a whole.
I would agree with that.
This con Geek Con is a birthing place for us of sorts. It was a catalyst for us of sorts. And this year we had, not only were we able to be present on the floor, we were able to be present with our team, and we had a panel discussion.
We did.
Which you guys can see that discussion on our YouTube channel.
We will warn you, it was not geared at the camera, so it's not. You have to pretend like you're in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. But out of it, there has been a lot of really interesting things that have opened up recently for us, and there's some things that we're going to be revealing to you guys in the coming weeks about some really cool stuff that's taking place that we're hoping for some next steps with Geek Devotions. But the mission, no matter what takes place next forward for us, is the same.
Yeah.
We are devoted to letting people know that they're loved.
Yep.
Period. And that's why we were there. That's why we were present. It's because we love the people in geek culture.
Yep. And even because we have officially with our Patreon reached the goal of enough money to start saving for a out-of-town con. And as we start saving for that, when we go to an out-of-town con, wherever it is, that will be our goal. That will be our reasoning for being there.
Exactly. So, oh man, I'm not sure. I was going to ask something silly like, did you get anything cool at the con? But I don't know if that's appropriate.
I mean, yeah, but I got some cool stuff. But I think that I left this con much more encouraged about Geek Devotions, about what we do than I have before.
Yeah.
Last year, I think we were riding on the high of we had a booth.
Yeah.
We were excited. We were there. We were on the floor, and we made some great connection with vendors.
Right.
But this year, I feel like there was much more of a spiritual shifting happening. Like you said, God is moving through Geek Devotions.
Totally.
And I'm excited to see what happens, and I'm excited that we get to be a part of it.
Absolutely. Well, before we head off, I do want to say a couple quick thank yous. First, I'll tell all of our team, to John Haryu, Kevin Burnham, Branson Boykin, and to Catherine, I'm not going to butcher her last name. Zerwinski. Squid. Thank you guys for your help. I want to say thank you to John Frutiger for coming down and being supportive and hanging out that weekend, and to Danny, who is Squid's roommate. She got to hang out with us, and I got to spend some of Friday with her.
Oh yeah,
and Squid, right. And just a fantastic artist and a great individual, and love her to death, and we appreciate her. And we hope that you enjoyed the food we fed you guys while you guys are here. But we also want to thank Greg Adams, the guy who runs the show.
Greg did such a great job. He does a great job every year, but he did such a great job of making sure everything was ran well and smoothly.
Exactly. And he did a bang-up job. His entire team did. Thank you for providing this place for geeks to gather. And thank you for allowing us the opportunity to have do the panel.
Yeah.
We really appreciated that opportunity. And hopefully we can do it again.
And if we do, it'll get better. Yeah. That's what we do.
Exactly. Also want to thank all of our devoted Patreon geeks.
Yes.
Because with your financial support, we were able to do some of the things we did at Geek Con.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, just everyone who supports us, period, financially or not.
Yeah.
You pray for us. You encourage us. You pray for us. You guys are amazing. And Celeste and I are so blessed and thankful. When we first started and we would tell people, I remember, you'll remember this, we were at a banquet. I'm not going to say what kind of banquet it was. It was a spiritual banquet. And I'm talking with a individual, and I tell them what we do. We had just started. I think we were maybe 6 or 7 months into it.
This is not what I'm thinking of.
I don't know what you're thinking of. And I tell Leigh what we do, and she goes, "Well, why would you do that?" Like almost like confused and disgusted at the same time. Of why would you do something like that? Like, what's the point of this thing you're doing? And I remember I was discouraged, but also like I'll show you.
Yeah.
But over the years, we've had numerous people who just don't understand why we do what we do and how we do what we do. And some have been less encouraging than others. But we are so thankful for those who, even if they don't understand, they're present.
I'm thankful for the ones that aren't present, if that makes sense, because I'm the type of person where you go, well, why would you do that? Then I'm like, come on, let's go. And I get more pumped up and more determined. Like, you tell me not to do something, that's probably what I'm going to do. It's just, it works with my contrary nature. But especially the ones who are present.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's all we have for this episode of Comm Talk. You got anything else, Celeste?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. I want to invite you guys, please check out our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just look for, I was about to say the Gundam Watch.
Wrong podcast.
Geek Devotions. We also want to invite you guys, hey, on geekdevotions.com, we have a whole section of the Geek Devotions Podcast Network, which is an accidental network of podcasts that we've created. They speak into geek culture in various ways through terrible movies, books, and now through Mobile Suit Gundam. And we do have a new Gundam episode coming up this Wednesday. Brant's and I are going to be talking about Mobile Suit Gundam 2. We just had an episode of The Bottom Shelf drop this past week where it was our Geek'd Con episode. And we read allegedly, can never say it, just did what?
We just released a episode on Night Film.
Nice.
Which we've had some good feedback back about.
Really?
Well, ish. So the book was Night Film, and I had been talking to a friend of mine, and she goes, "Oh, well, Night Film's been on back order at the library for weeks, so I can just listen to the podcast." And John and I both go, because we were talking to her on Facebook.
Right.
She goes, and I go, "No, you don't want to do that. There's spoilers. Do you want to just borrow my book?" She got it on Sunday. She finished it on Thursday.
Wow.
And was messaging me about it. And she goes, "Okay, I'm listening to the podcast now while I fold clothes." So
so good.
We're encouraging people to read.
Awesome. All right, Celeste, we'll land this plane, dear.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Comm Talk today. If you have loved this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, or leave a review. It is very much appreciated. So until next time, stay devoted.
Peace and love.